Okay. So the first topic to be discussed in this class, of course, as you know, we are going through topics from section 1. We've done fiscal policy, monetary policy. Once we covered strategic management, which was section 6. The first topic, it's going to be adding value. Let's start off by discussing what the concept adding value is all about. Adding value. Because, you know, I've often observed that apparently there is some confusion about the concept adding value. This is not value addition, this is adding value. So hopefully after this discussion, it's not a detailed discussion as such, but after whatever we learn about this concept, adding value, we'll be able to develop a better understanding of the concept, and we will have a firmer grasp over it. Let me give you the definition first, and then I'll try and simplify it and explain it with the help of appropriate examples. Adding value. So adding value means that a product is modified. Let's all pay attention. A product is modified. A product is modified, or its associated marketing strategy is modified. Remember both. In adding value, a product is modified, or its associated marketing strategy is modified in such a way that the perception of the customers, about the product changes. This is adding value. I repeat, in adding value, the product is modified or adjusted, or its associated marketing strategy is adjusted in such a manner that the perception of the customers about the product, it changes. We will discuss this in detail. The perception changes, and now the customers start thinking that the product is of a greater utility to them. The customers, they now start thinking that the product now, it's more useful to them. It is of a greater utility to the customers. This is what the concept is all about. Now let me try and elaborate. Adding value. What we've learned is that in adding value, or the term adding value is used when a product is modified, right? There are adjustments, something is added to it, something is removed from it, the packaging, the ingredients, anything. Or the marketing strategy, the advertising campaign, maybe that is modified. Above or below the line promotion is modified. And what is the purpose? The purpose is to change the perception of the customers about the product. That's the purpose. To change the perception of the customers about the product. Do you understand what the term perception means? Perception is the viewpoint. You know, the impression that they have, you know, in their minds regarding the product. The viewpoint. You know, the image of the product in their eyes. The perception is changed. And now they think that, you know, this product is more useful to us than it was before. That's adding value. Right? Okay. So the keyword here is, I'll quote a few examples also. The keyword is perception. You know, perception means that you know, the viewpoint has changed, right? And in reality, whether the product is actually of a greater utility to the customers or not, that is a separate debate. You see, you have to be very careful about this. People who are joining in, We're discussing adding value here. And I'm just trying to explain that adding value means that you change the product, or you modify the product or its associated marketing strategy in such a way that the perception or the viewpoint of the customers about the product changes. In reality, whether the product is actually more useful now or than it was before, that's, like I was saying, that's a separate debate. Maybe the utility, maybe the usefulness has actually improved. Maybe it's not. But the perception means that the customer should start thinking that yes, the product is a more useful now, is a more useful one now. That's the whole concept, that's the philosophy behind adding value. Right? Change the perception of the customers, or either you modify the product or you just modify the marketing campaign. You launch an advertising campaign which helps you with this. Right? Let's try and understand the concept with the help of 2 or 3 or 4 good examples. Example number 1. Nowadays, I would say maybe, the most effective way of achieving this objective of the objective of adding value is that manufacturers, companies, sellers, they highlight different uses of the same product. They highlight different uses of the same product. They start projecting the product as a multi-purpose product. As a multi-purpose product. This is one of the most commonly used, a very effective tool these days for accomplishing the task, for achieving the objective of adding value. How? Highlight different uses of the same product. Right? This product can be used in different ways, multiple ways. So if the first use was not good, it wasn't good enough for attracting customers, the second use that we have highlighted, this might have a positive impact. Example, Nike. Nike has been extremely successful in achieving this objective, right? They have added value to their products using exactly the same strategy that I pointed out. Right? What Nike has done is that they started promoting their products. They started promoting their sportswear as casual wear. Are you understanding this, the strategy? Nike promotes its sportswear as casual wear also. What are they trying to accomplish? They're trying to add value to their products. What they're saying is that you don't have to be a sports person, you don't have to be an athlete to buy a Nike product. Anyone can buy it because this is not only sportswear, this is casual wear too. So they have highlighted different uses of the same product. Highlighted different uses of the same product. So those who did not buy a Nike pair of shoes or a shirt previously, because they thought it was for athletes only, now they'll be attracted towards the product and they will probably decide in favor of this product. Right? This is the concept. This is adding value. They've added value to the product. Now they think it is of a greater utility to them. It's more useful now. Adding value. Other examples? Highlighting different uses of the same product. You must have seen these ads, very, very common these days. Different brands of milk, they are doing this. Noorpur does this. Allpers they have adopted this strategy. That they will highlight different uses of the same product. You can use it as milk, or you can use this in any other way, with desserts, with milkshakes, with tea. Highlight different uses of the same product, and when you do that, you add value to your product. So the person who was not too interested in buying that brand of milk previously might be attracted towards it because of the other uses that you have highlighted. I just mentioned at the beginning also, advertising plays a huge role. If the advertising campaign is aggressive enough, if the advertising campaign is effective enough, you will send this message out and you will convey this message to the customers that this can be used in multiple ways. It is a multi-purpose product. Right? Another example, cell phones. You see, in business, you have to improve the quality of the answer. You have to make the answer more interesting by quoting examples. Quote as many examples as you want. Make it more interesting. You have to quote examples here. Right? So the cell phone manufacturers, they adopt this strategy. Cell phone manufacturers, they have this strategy. Sometimes they will promote the cell phone as a cell phone. Sometimes they will promote the cell phone by focusing on its music system. Sometimes they will publicize the camera. Sometimes, you know, any other feature, the appearance, the torch, highlight different use of the same product. This will certainly attract a new set of customers. A new set of customers will be attracted towards the product. And, you know, by doing this, you will be in a position to overcome competition, establish your brand image, and what they say, broaden your customer base. There are other ways of accomplishing this also. People who are joining in, we are discussing adding value here, section 1. There are other ways of adding value also. You know, change the packaging, change the outlook, give it a fresher look. Companies do this all the time. Pepsi changed the logo, car manufacturers do this. Standard Chartered did this. They changed the logo, they give it a fresher look, change the appearance, or change the ingredients, change the composition, what they call it, change the composition of the product, add something to it. Now it is available with vitamin C. Now it's available with calcium. Now it's available with iron. Now it's available without calories. Add something or remove something. Change the appearance, change the outlook, change the composition. This is what adding value is all about. Another possible technique, companies, they rely on this quite frequently actually. Start using below the line promotion. If you want to add value, start using below the line promotion. You know what below the line promotion is, right? Below the line promotion means start using sales promotion schemes. That if you buy this marker, you get a pen for free. This is called below the line promotion. Above the line promotion is advertising through print or electronic media. Below the line promotion, sales promotion schemes. Start offering incentives to the workers. Start offering discounts. Right? So on and so forth. So this is the whole philosophy. This is the concept behind adding value. That is why I explained in the beginning that adding value means modify the product or its associated marketing strategy to change the perception of the customers about the product and convince them, make them feel that this product is way more useful now as how it used to be in the past. That is adding value. Change the perception. Now they will start thinking, yes, this has a great utility. And adding value, this is used as a concept for overcome, you know, as a tool for overcoming competition, for establishing your brand image, for increasing your market share. That's adding value. Hopefully you've understood the concept. We're going through these topics from section 1, adding value. And do not forget to quote all these examples. Nike sportswear can be used as casual wear also. Cell phone manufacturers, different brands of milk, so on and so forth. All right? Okay, let's proceed. The next topic under discussion, that is called MBO. That's called MBO. MBO stands for Management by Objectives. We're going to discuss this theory now, the MBO theory, the Management by Objectives theory. MBO, or Management by Objectives theory, by a gentleman, by a social scientist, called Peter Drucker. Called Peter Drucker. D-R-U-C-K-E-R. You have to remember the name of the social scientist, Peter Drucker. We're going to discuss Peter Drucker's MBO theory. We're going to discuss Peter Drucker's management by objectives theory here. Okay. Now, first of all, we have to keep in mind that, the crux of this theory is the focal point, the 3 steps involved that we'll discuss in detail. But the focal point or the crux is that MBO indicates management by objectives. MBO indicates that if a business wants to achieve long-term success, any business organization, if it wishes to achieve long-term success, if they want to be successful on a long-term basis, this is not for short-term benefits. So if a business wants to achieve long-term success, then it needs to have an objective-oriented approach. Then it should have a goal-oriented approach or an objective-oriented approach, a focused approach. I'm just trying to simplify this. We'll discuss this in detail, the 3 steps involved. So Peter Drucker says in MBO that as a business person, if you want to achieve success on a long-term basis, make sure you have an objective-oriented approach. There should not be any haphazard movements. Your plans should not be vague. They shouldn't be vague. They should be precise, clear-cut. That's why he says you need to have an objective-oriented approach, a goal-oriented approach, a focused approach. Right? Make plans, then try to, implement those. Be systematic, be methodical if you want to be a successful business person in the long run. This is like a summary. This is the introduction, actually. Like I said, the crux. Okay. So, in the opinion of Peter Drucker, the following 3 factors will contribute towards the effectiveness of MBO. The following 3 factors will contribute towards the effectiveness of MBO. Let's try and understand these 3 factors, or you can say 3 steps involved in this. Let's see. First of all, in MBO, Drucker states, and you have to concentrate, this is an important theory. Drucker states that all business objectives must be defined in quantitative terms. This is point number 1 in MBO, in management by objectives, that all business objectives, they have to be defined in quantitative terms. Do you understand this? All business objectives should be defined quantitatively. They should be defined in numeric terms, in quantitative terms. You understand this? In numbers. That's the first point, very, very important. That when you are setting an objective, when you're assigning a task, make sure this is done quantitatively, not vaguely. Now let's try and, as usual, try and use examples here. See, let's suppose there's a manager. He instructs his workers that, I want you to perform well. I expect a good performance. Now, would you say this is a quantitative goal? Absolutely not. You see, good performance could mean anything. Good performance could mean anything. The worker says, I have manufactured 10 units. This is an excellent performance. The worker might say, I'm producing 10 units a day. That is tremendous. But the opinion of the manager could be just the opposite. The manager would say, this is bad. Because to the manager, good performance means 50 units a day. But to the manager, to the worker, good performance means maybe 10 units a day. So that is why Drucker is absolutely justified in saying that when you assign tasks, when you set goals, do it quantitatively. When you define your goal in numeric terms, in numbers, in figures, you can never go wrong. You understand this point? That, you know, when it is defined in numeric terms, when the goal is defined in numbers, quantitatively, then, you know, then the element of doubt or the element of ambiguity will be gone. There's no confusion. You know, you have to manufacture 50 units by the 30th of this month. This is clear cut. This is a quantitative goal. 50 units is 50 units. By the 30th of September is the 30th of September. So, like I've been mentioning, always try to give reasons. Always try to evaluate pros and cons, and also try to analyze. Analysis means find the answer to why. Right? What is justification? Why should the goals be quantitative? The justification, the reason is simple. That when the goals are quantitative, when they're defined in numeric terms, then, you know, this helps the management in overcoming the element of doubt, right? It contributes towards clarity. You know, chances of any kind of confusion or ambiguity, those are minimized. Evaluation becomes easier. Now you can assess your performance easily. The workers can assess their own performance easily. The managers can assess their performance. Then, you know, the target was 100. You have reached 65. The performance level is 65%. Another 35 to go. You're lagging behind by this much. So this will bring clarity to the business. Evaluation becomes easier. So that's the first point. All your business objectives or the tasks that you assign, they should be quantitative. They should be defined in numeric terms. Clear? I hope you've understood the first point in MBO. Point number 2 says, all business objectives must be arranged in a certain hierarchy. They should be arranged in a certain hierarchy. Hierarchy means HIERARCHY. Hierarchy means in the order of importance. The business objectives, they should be arranged in the order of importance. They should be arranged in a certain hierarchy, the order of importance. See, you can easily observe the concept behind MBO is that everything should be done systematically in a methodical way, in a well-planned way. Not in some, not you know, in a way which is vague. So everything has to be arranged in a certain hierarchy, in a certain order. Everything should be done systematically, streamlined in a word. Everything should be streamlined. That, you know, on the 2nd of September, you have to accomplish this. By the 15th, this is the target. By the 30th, you have to reach this point. And hierarchy combined with consistency. There should be hierarchy. Everything should be arranged in the order of hierarchy, and there should be consistency also. And what is consistency? Continuity. Consistency means continuity. There should be an element of continuity. The business should make progress with the passage of time. Everyone should work together in a combined way. They should take the business forward. Continuity or consistency means no clashes, no conflicts, no clashes. You work together as one unit, as one body. You complement each other. One department should complement the other. One worker should complement the other. One objective should complement and strengthen the other objective. You know, A is responsible for arranging the raw materials. B is responsible for converting the raw material into finished goods. The third task, you're supposed to, to take care of packaging. You, the storage space, you, distribution. Everything is well coordinated. This is consistency, continuity, arrange everything in the order of importance, right? So that there are no loopholes in the system, no clashes, no conflicts. That's number two. The third point is, the third component of MBO is management by objectives. Very, very important point. That, business objectives or goals, they must be challenging. Very important point. Goals have to be challenging. Remember this. Business objectives, they have to be challenging. Right? Challenging means difficult to accomplish, difficult to achieve. You will, with experience, you will learn. This is such an important point, that all business objectives, all goals, or the tasks that you assign to your workers, they have to be challenging ones. A task, a goal should not be a piece of cake. It should not be too simple to achieve. If you want them to perform, to the optimum level, if you want an extraordinary performance from your workers, if you want them to be high achievers, right? Then assign tasks or set goals which are difficult to achieve or difficult to pursue. Because when a task is challenging, when an objective, when it's a tough one, when it's challenging, you will have to utilize all your potential, all your skill. You have to work at your optimum level. Your skills, your potential will be tested. Because you have understood the fact that unless I make a serious effort, unless I give it my best shot, I will never achieve success. I have to give it my 100% if I want to be successful. Right? So that's the reason. That's the answer to why. That if you want their performance to improve, the workers, and if you want them to make a greater contribution towards the success and growth of the business, then assign challenging tasks to them. Make sure that objectives that they pursue, that are set, they're challenging ones. Because only then they will actually try to go that extra mile and try to make a serious effort to achieve that. So it's good for the worker also, if you think this will motivate workers to work hard. It's good for them, it's good for their skills, good for their career growth, good for the business also, good for the management also. But the second part is, the goals have to be challenging. They must test the workers. But at the same time, these business objectives, these goals, they have to be realistic also. Very, very important. Challenging and realistic at the same time. A goal, a business objective, a task has to be challenging and realistic at the same time. This is where your managerial skills will come into effect. Good managers, they know how to strike a balance. Right? Do you understand? They know how to strike a balance. They would assign tasks which are difficult, challenging, but not impossible to achieve. But not impossible to achieve. There's a thin line that has to be drawn between a difficult task and a task which is out of reach. So the goal has to be within their reach. Because if it is within their reach, they will make an effort to achieve it. They'll be motivated to work hard. But if they feel that it is absolutely impossible to achieve, then instead of motivating the workers, it will demotivate them. They would feel that, no matter how hard we try, we're never going to reach our destination. So strike a balance between the tasks being challenging and of course the task being realistic also. The managers, they have to assign tasks in the end that are difficult and realistic at the same time. The result is obvious. Performance improves, motivation, etc. And the workers also get to know how good or how bad they are. Okay, so like all of the topics, in MBO also, you have to point out the limitations as well. Always try to do that. It's quite obvious. MBO, it appears to be a useful management technique. And yeah, another point. Though we are discussing this in section 1, it is a part of section 1. But this is quite relevant to section 2 also. You went through quite a few topics in section 2, I'm sure. Those management-based topics, leadership, management, motivation. So this knowledge of MBO, this information, try to combine this with your knowledge of section 2 also. So all those management-based questions, in all those questions, it is strongly recommended that you combine MBO with those management-based answers or management-based questions. They're quite relevant. And at this stage, you are in A2, you should know how to come up with answers in which, knowledge is reflected, and knowledge which is not confined to one topic or one section, but to the entire syllabus, right? So, as far as the limitations are concerned of MBO, a very useful technique, no doubt about it, but the workers show resistance to it. The workers, they are known for showing resistance to MBO. And why is that? Workers show resistance to MBO. It is a useful technique. Everything is streamlined, systematic. You're being motivated, and performance improves, all the good points. But workers, they show resistance to it. The reason is simple. The reason is why workers show resistance to it. So, as a result of this, when MBO is implemented, they will have to work in a disciplined fashion. They will have to work in a disciplined manner. Rules and regulations have been laid down. You will have to follow those rules and regulations. Right? So we all know, I think we can all relate, that we all know that discipline is good. But at the same time, this is not something that we really, really enjoy. So since as a result of this, the workers, they have to work in a disciplined way. They have to follow rules and regulations. There's a certain system, there's a certain methodology to be adopted. So they might show resistance to it because they don't want to work in a disciplined way. So that's like a limitation. And when they show resistance to it, then they will have to be motivated. The employers, they'll be forced to offer different kinds of incentives to them, financial rewards, non-financial rewards. They will have to persuade them, convince them to work better, so on and so forth. This is a limitation. And then, you might also add that MBO might prove to be a little inflexible also. Inflexibility is another limitation, you can say. It might prove to be somewhat inflexible. It is a little rigid. There's a pattern which has to be followed. There are rules and regulations, right? So it is rigid, somewhat inflexible, and adjustments are difficult. And you can also mention time consuming. MBO may prove to be somewhat time consuming also. It might prove to be time consuming also, at least initially, because you have to train, you have to learn various systems and the mechanics, so on and so forth. So in the limitation, you can mention this. The workers show resistance to it, inflexibility, and maybe a bit time consuming. So I hope you have understood the concept, management by objectives, useful theory by Peter Drucker. Try to remember and quote the name. Peter Drucker, Drucker. Peter Drucker's MBO theory. Peter Drucker's management by objectives theory. Right? And I hope you're revising all this as well. Okay, let's continue. The next topic is types of business objectives. You know, the main heading in the curriculum in the syllabus, that is business objectives. It is classified into two parts. One is MBO, the theory that we just covered. The other one, types of business objectives. Right? Types of, okay. So what we need to understand is that, you know, businesses, different business organizations, they pursue a variety of objectives, right? They pursue a wide variety of objectives, businesses, depending on their circumstances, depending on the mindset of the stakeholders, financial position, so on and so forth. Businesses, they pursue a variety of objectives, right? And in order to understand this, all in all, there are 6 business objectives that we need to focus on. Different circumstances, different situations, the 6 business objectives that they have to pursue. Like I said, different circumstances. Try to refer to a topic that you might have done in section 3, product life cycle. Have you covered this? Anyone? Have you guys have you done product life cycle?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You have absolutely. In marketing, you went through all those stages, and you learned the strategies also that are adopted at each one of these stages. How business is supposed to act or develop a strategy or plan at the introductory stage or at maturity. I'm sure if you've done product life cycle, you must have done that. Great. Okay. So when you're attempting this question on business objectives or types of business objectives, try to recall the topic product life cycle, because there's a bit of overlapping, you know, because as the product moves along the product life cycle that you've just confirmed that you've done, the business objectives change. So it proves to be quite useful if you use that knowledge, your knowledge of the product life cycle. Okay, let's see, 6 objectives. Objective number 1 is survival, right? Survival, remember, again, referring to the product life cycle, products which are at the introductory stage. Products which are at the introductory stage, they have to face numerous, what is that term? Teething problems. Products have to face numerous teething problems at the introductory stage. Teething problems are startup problems. Teething problems, startup problems. So all new products, most of them, they face teething problems at the introductory stage. And it is an established fact, as you might also be knowing, that the introductory stage is the riskiest stage in the product life cycle. It is the riskiest stage in the product life cycle, the introductory stage. About 50% of all new products collapse, they vanish, they just disappear within 1 year of their introduction. About 50% of all products worldwide. So that goes on to show that the introductory stage is a risky one. It is considered to be the riskiest stage in the product life cycle because of these teething problems, startup problems, like the capital cost is high, there's a lack of experience, there's a lack of awareness. The competitors, they will give you a tough time, right? Average costs are high, so on and so forth. So because of these teething problems, the objective to be pursued at this stage for a new product, that is survival. there's no need to do something flashy or something, extravagant or too aggressive at this stage. It is advisable that at this stage, at the introductory stage, be cautious. Why? Because you have to find a foothold in the market. This is a risky stage. Just somehow try to survive. Just somehow try to stay there for a certain period of time. Just try to survive through that critical introductory stage. Profit maximization, etc. These are important objectives. In fact, the ultimate objective, but not at the introductory stage, because you have to overcome those teething problems, and then you have to survive, and gradually you move. You see, this is product life cycle. There are no hard and fast rules regarding the time period involved. The product life cycle might spread, like I said, over only a few months. Most of the products, they disappear within 1 year. And from few months, it might be extended to a few years, decades, centuries. A product like Coke was launched back in 1886, and it is still growing. Over a century, well over a century has passed. So you can't really predict. But the fact remains that this introductory stage is tough. And just try to survive. And how, you see, you always have to elaborate. You will get the credit for how you convey your viewpoint to the customers. Try to elaborate, try to, simplify things, try to simplify things for the examiner. When you explain everything in detail, clearly, and you elaborate, and you don't assume that the examiner, you don't take the examiner for granted that he already knows everything. It's your knowledge that has to be tested. You get the credit for that, right? So you have to discuss survival as the first objective. If they survive, then the other objectives will be pursued. And how do you achieve that survival? The most effective way is use a penetration pricing strategy. If you want to make sure that your chances of survival improve, the most effective way is use a penetration pricing strategy. Use a penetration pricing strategy at this stage. Charge a lower price. And when you do that, automatically your chance of survival will improve. So most of the companies, especially those that deal in FMCGs, fast moving consumer goods, which are very high in demand, usually this is the strategy that they rely on. They use penetration pricing strategy to improve their chances of survival. Or sometimes they use advertising also, informative advertising, that can also matter. So that's objective number one. Okay, so people who have just joined, like Abdullah, we have covered in today's class so far. We went through adding value. That was the first topic. How to change the perception of the customers about a product, and we discussed all those examples. Then we learned a bit about MBO, which is Management by Objectives theory, the MBO theory by Peter Drucker. And now we are going through the types of business objectives. And we have just learned something about survival, that the first objective for new businesses to avoid teething problems, that is to somehow survive through the critical introductory stage. Okay, objective number 2 is growth. The second objective that can possibly be pursued by businesses, we call that growth. Now, what does this indicate? Keep bringing that graph in mind, the product life cycle. What does growth indicate? Growth indicates that now the sales are showing an upward trend. Growth indicates that your market share is increasing. Your market share is increasing. Growth gives us the evidence that the customers, they have accepted the product. You have managed to overcome those teething problems. You know that approval is there. You've managed through the critical you managed to survive through the critical introductory stage. And now you will enjoy economies of scale. And now things start looking good. That is growth. It is a proof that you have managed through that turbulent time period, something that we call a phase that is called the introductory stage. Right? Okay. Very, very important objective. Growth, obviously, because this is when you actually start making profit, you start enjoying economies of scale, and you start overcoming competition. There's something that you learn. You should learn how to differentiate between the terms sales and growth. There's a slight difference. The overlap also, they're connected, obviously. But sales and growth, there's a difference. Growth represents market share. Market share. And market share is described in percentage. What is your market share? The market size is 10 ACs. Your company, in those 10 ACs, 2 are manufactured by your company. So your market share is 20%. 10 ACs are sold, all brands, like we discussed in Boston's and Anstar's matrix also. And out of those 10, 2 are manufactured by Panasonic. So Panasonic has a market share of 20%. Growth represents this market share. It means your market share is increasing and the market share of your competitors, it is shrinking. Growth means you're overcoming competition. Sales, on the other hand, sales are described in absolute terms. Growth in relative terms, relative means as a proportion, as a percentage. Sales, they're described in absolute terms. What is the sales revenue? $10,500, absolute terms. So try to remember this difference, though they are linked. So the second objective is growth. And there are so many social scientists who are of the opinion that growth is such an important objective that it is like a prerequisite to survival. Do you understand the term prerequisite? Prerequisite means a basic condition to be met. Prerequisite means a condition to be fulfilled. Prerequisite means a condition to be met. Right? A basic requirement to be fulfilled. So there are many social scientists, they favor growth as a business objective to such an extent that they feel that it's like a prerequisite to survival. If you want to survive, be aggressive, try to grow. But obviously it is debatable, it's controversial. Sometimes if you are overly aggressive, your chances of survival are also minimized. But growth is an objective. That's number 2. Number 3, sales revenue maximization. Number 3, sales revenue maximization. So there is a school of thought, they believe, a group of like-minded social scientists, they believe that a business should try and pursue a simple objective. And what is that? Increase sales. There's some scientists, some social scientists, they believe that a business should just try to maximize sales. Keep it simple. Try to increase your sales. As a result of this, other objectives will be achieved automatically. Right? You can even say it's oversimplified, this objective. They feel just try to increase sales, everything else will be accomplished automatically. Right? So, I mean, sales, who can deny the fact that sales are very important? You have to improve sales. You have to increase sales. But this does not necessarily mean that when sales rise, profits are also maximized. No. Sales might have a positive impact on profit, but not necessarily. Your profit is revenue minus cost, remember? When sales rise and you fail to keep a check on your costs, then the high sales, they are of no use. But there are people, like you should mention his name, William Baumol, 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 Baumol. William Baumol is a well-known social scientist. He is a great advocate of this theory, this concept. William Baumol, he says, keep it simple, just try to increase sales. If you manage to increase sales, you will be a successful business person. Everything else will follow it. So he oversimplifies it. Sales are very, very important, but not the only important factor that would lead to profit. But the fact remains that sales revenue maximization is another objective, right? So we have survival, we have growth, we have sales. Number 4 is profit. Objective number 4, that's profit maximization, right? Okay, so profit maximization, remember, is the ultimate goal to be achieved. The ultimate goal to be achieved, or the ultimate objective to be pursued by any business organization, needless to say, that is profit maximization. That's profit maximization. That's the ultimate objective. Profit maximization. You know, if it's a business organization, the very first definition in our syllabus of business activity, it says it's an activity which is carried out, you know, to increase the output in the shape of goods and services to maximize profit. So if it's a business organization, it has to be a profit-seeking organization, right? It has to be a profit-seeking organization if it's a business organization. So profit maximization is the ultimate objective to be pursued or achieved by any business organization, right? They might pursue other objectives in due course, like we just pointed out a few, but ultimate destination is to maximize profit. There's a very well-known statement, try to memorize this and remember this. Profit is the ultimate gauge to measure the success of a business. This can be used in so many different answers, try to memorize this. Profit is the ultimate gauge, G-A-U-G-E, scale. Profit is the ultimate gauge to measure the success of a business. The ultimate gauge to measure the success of a business is profit. Ultimately, if you have to judge, if you have to assess whether it's a successful business organization, the size of the business, etc., profit will always give you an insight. So the ultimate gauge to measure the success of a business, that's profit. And what is the formula for profit? We'll give the formula: profit is equal to revenue minus cost. Profit is revenue minus cost. Right? Profit is revenue minus cost. So how do you maximize profit? By widening the gap between revenue and cost. If you want to maximize profit, just try to maximize the gap between revenue and cost. Just try to widen the gap between revenue and cost. The higher the revenue, the lower the cost, the higher the profit, right? Profit is revenue minus cost. So the higher the revenue, the lower the cost, and the higher the profit. So just give the formula: profit is revenue minus cost. So if you want to achieve your ultimate objective of profit maximization, just take steps for increasing the revenue, just take steps to, you know, to reduce the cost. Try doing this simultaneously, and the gap will widen and profit will be maximized, which is the ultimate goal. That's number 4. Objective number 5, the 5th objective to be pursued by any business organization, that is social responsibility. Social responsibility, right? And for actually, interestingly enough, the very next topic that we'll be discussing, that is CSR. Very, very important topic. CSR, ethics, triple bottom line. It is in section 1, and you know, it is so popular with the examiners, with paper setters. That will be our next topic. Ethics, CSR, triple bottom line. You might have done this, I'm not sure, but you have to refer to that. Social responsibility is objective number 5. We will discuss this in detail very soon in the next topic, but for the time being, just remember that, you know, nowadays, from the viewpoint of a business person, it is essential that he gives importance to what the society needs. He has to act in a socially responsible manner, right? You have to maximize profit, you have to increase sales, no doubt about it. But You're answerable to the society also. You're answerable to all the stakeholders in the society, internally and externally. You have to fulfill your social responsibility. You're accountable, you're answerable to the society, all the stakeholders. Right? So it is so important that this is categorized. It is right there on the list of objectives. Social responsibility. That a business organization must try to fulfill its social responsibility. A business organization must try to safeguard the interest of all the stakeholders in the society. You know, manufacture whatever you want to, but also make sure that it is in the best interest of the public. Try to make profit. If it's a cafe, if it's a restaurant, try to maximize profit, but make sure the food that you're serving, it meets those conditions, the hygienic conditions and everything, or don't pollute the environment, or don't hire children. Social responsibility. Very soon, we'll be discussing this. That is our next topic. So social responsibility is objective number 5. The last objective that we need to focus on, that is providing services. Providing services. That's the last objective. Providing services. So, you know, in this case, in objective number 6, you need to discuss the operations of the public sector. The public sector. Providing services, this is the last objective, public sector. What is this public sector? Public sector represents the state-owned corporations. Public sector represents all the state-owned corporations. State-owned corporations. Right? Those corporations, those organizations which are managed by the government, owned by the state, their responsibility, primary responsibility, is to provide facilities or services to the public, to the masses, at subsidized rates, at comparatively lower rates. The public sector organizations, these are state-owned corporations, like Pakistan Railways is a public sector company. Their job is to provide rail transport facility to the general public at subsidized rates. But there's a misconception. Try to make sure you don't repeat this mistake. Public sector organizations, their primary job is to provide services to the public, established, and they seek profit as a secondary motive. You will never write that they are not interested in making profit. That would be incorrect. You can't say they are not interested in making profit. Public sector organizations, they want to make profit, but profit is a secondary motive. The main motive is to serve the people, and while doing that, if they can make profit, they will. If they can't, they will still provide the service. Like Pakistan Railways, I just mentioned, they've been bearing losses for the last so many decades. That doesn't mean they don't want to make profit. Of course, they want to make profit, but there are other reasons because of which they can't. They haven't managed to do that, but they can't discontinue with the rail transport facility. Right? So the 6th point, the 6th objective is providing services. And you will discuss the public sector. So the main difference between public and private sector is the private sector that pursues profit as the primary motive. Public sector also pursues profit, but as a secondary motive. Right? So in the last point, you have to discuss the functioning, the operations of the public sector. The public sector, they also pursue the objective. They have to provide services, electricity services, transport, etc., telecom. And nowadays, you know, the trends are that the public sector is in direct competition with the private sector. They're in direct competition with the private sector. You know, there are companies, telecom companies that are in the public sector. There are telecom companies that are in the private sector also. So they are in direct competition. There are companies in transport in the private sector. Then there are certain companies in the transport business which represent the public sector. Right? So they're in direct competition with the private sector. That is why this is also a business objective. They want to make profit, but it is a secondary motive. Right? So hopefully you've understood this, types of business objectives and MBO. Right. Now we can okay. So we can discuss this. Yeah, go ahead. We're asking something about profit. Yeah.
I was asking, won't that be like discussed within the objectives too?
Which one? Profit maximization or?
Profit sacrificing.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, you can add this to the list if you want. You can combine this with the objective, with objective number 4. You can combine this with profit if you want to. You know, as a continuation, as an extension to that point number 4. And if you want, you can discuss it separately also. Absolutely. You see, the point is, with reference to what you asked, in business, you should feel free to express your opinion. You know, even if the point that you are raising, your point is a valid one, Professor. So that this is obviously a valid. But even if, you know, it is such an unusual point that you might feel that the majority, their viewpoint is totally different, you will realize this very soon. Once we have practiced once we go through all these topics, and once we start practicing the case study, you might not have done that, paper 3. In that, you will realize that, you know, the situation is such that there could be 10 different solutions to the same problem, or there are 10 different points that could be discussed, and your point could be totally different also as compared to what others are discussing, right? But even then, the examiners, they actually prefer that, and you'll get the credit for that. I'll just quote a very simple example with reference to what you asked, because, you know, this will prove to be handy in the long run once you start attempting those questions in the past papers. You know, very simple point, and interestingly enough, this is from section 1. We've all done this initially, the sectors of production, primary, secondary, etc. So, you know, there was a question with reference to a developing country like ours, that which sector is the most significant out of primary, secondary, and tertiary? Which sector is the most significant? So you see, this is a question, you know, this can be answered very easily in 3 different ways. And you'll get the credit for all 3 answers, even though they're absolutely different. You know, for instance, in a developing country like ours, if somebody feels, this is what the majority would say, right? That, you know, the primary sector is the most significant. That's a typical answer. It's not wrong, obviously, but it's a typical answer. The primary sector is the most significant because we are an agrarian economy, we are agriculture based. So, you know, the majority of the population, they're associated with agriculture. So primary sector has to be the most important. The other industries are dependent on this. Perfect. But if somebody disagrees and somebody thinks, no, in my opinion, even though we are an agrarian economy, and that is correct, but I believe the secondary sector is the most prominent and it has the greatest scope. Even that can be proved, though the answer is totally different. You know, you might say that new industry is being established, and eventually what the primary sector is producing, that will be converted into finished goods by the secondary sector, and then that will be exported, and you will earn foreign exchange because of that. So that's valid, even though it is in conflict, in contrast with what the majority said. And interestingly enough, if somebody thinks that no, the tertiary sector is the most significant, even that can be justified. You know, how can this be justified? People or student might say, and rightly so, that, you know, Pakistan is a thickly populated country. It is number 5 in the world, or number 6 in the world in population. So there's no shortage of manpower. Okay, and the majority represents the youth in Pakistan. So keeping these factors in mind, our tertiary sector is the most important, providing services, right? Providing services, or, you know, if you are trying to, you're engaged in an industry or in a profession that requires, that gives more importance to manpower, for instance, then cheap labor can be found, services can be provided considering the size of the population, right? So even that can be justified. So you have to feel absolutely, you'll be justified in expressing your viewpoint freely, even if you feel the majority, their stance is different. And that is why I think I mentioned this in the beginning, initially, when we were having our, the introductory session, that, your language skills in business will have a major impact. It's very, very important that you have to work on your language skills. Your writing skills, fortunately or unfortunately, will have a major impact on your final grade. Over the last so many years since I've been teaching, this is what I've observed. All the high achievers in business, there was one thing in common. They must be smart, and the analytical skills might be good, hardworking, smart, teak. But their language skills were strong. They had a firmer command over the English language. And because of their strong language skills, they were able to attempt so many questions, which are like English essay type questions, in a much better way as compared to other fellow students. And they got the credit for that. And in this next topic, I am going to describe, I'll be selecting a question from paper 3, from Cameron Jet Engines, 2016. And I'll try and elaborate on this, whatever I just pointed out. We'll discuss that in the next topic. And I think we can start discussing. I was hoping that the number of students would increase, but I don't know. We'll still continue with this. Okay, the topic it's called ethics, right? In fact, you should write ethics /CSR /triple bottom line. Ethics /CSR /triple bottom line. The reason I've mentioned all three terms simultaneously is that there is such a high degree of overlapping between these three that they complement each other in such an excellent way that, any essay type question on ethics or CSR or triple bottom line, my strong recommendation is discuss all three. But yeah, if it's a short question, then you will keep yourself confined to that particular term, but they overlap. Okay. Ethics, the definition, and it is one of those topics which is equally relevant to all three papers. Whether it's paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, most of you, I think, are appearing in all three papers because we do not have, that's what I learned, an AS system here. But even if you have appeared in P1 and 2, even then, in paper 3 also, you'll be needing this. For all three papers, because our focus is to cover the entire syllabus and make sure that you do well in all three papers, the entire A-level syllabus. So it is equally pertinent, equally relevant to all three papers. Ethics, the definition. Very commonly used term, the do's and don'ts with respect to the society or culture maybe. Ethics, it is a set of morals or values. Ethics, it is defined as a set of morals or values that are followed by, which are practiced by the members of a community. Ethics, the word ethics represents those morals and values, those practices, the traditions, morals or values, that's a better term, that are practiced by the members of a certain community or a society. Right? Things that you like to refrain from, abstain from, things you like to do, things you find acceptable, unacceptable. Like I said, do's and don'ts. But with reference to the society, I have not used the word government here. Mind you, I have not used the word government, society. Things which are acceptable to the society, not acceptable to the society, important to a society, right? So that is why we say set of morals and values that are important to the society are followed by the members of the society or the community, right? Okay. Now, it is absolutely essential, keeping this, how things have evolved in the last few years, for businesses, that they attach a lot of importance to ethics. They just cannot undermine the importance of ethics, moral values, traditions. They can't, because this will have an impact on their ability to generate sales and profit. Right? Okay, let's see. Examples. I'll quote a recent example. You might be familiar that, there's a pressure group in developing countries. They have formed a pressure group, and it has a few 100,000 members now, by the way. This pressure group, I'm trying to quote an example with reference to ethics. So this pressure group, they are raising their voice against advertising directed towards children. This pressure group, they're protesting against advertising that is directed towards children. They say the products which are consumed by children, certain products, they should not be advertised. That is ethically wrong. That is morally inappropriate. Basically, what they're referring to is, products such as chocolates, candies, sweets. They say that under the influence of these ads, people are over-consuming these products. Children are, because they are the main target audience, children are over-consuming these products, these chocolates and candies, and they're falling sick. So these products are hazardous to the health of our children, right? So it is the ethical responsibility or the social responsibility of the producers of these items that they should stop advertising these. So they hold protests, this pressure group, they hold protests outside their factories. They're raising their voice that you have to stop. It's your ethical responsibility. That's wrong. That's your genuine social responsibility. Okay. So the term ethical issues represents issues which are important to the society. And the term legal issues, needless to say, legal issues would represent issues which are addressed by the government directly. Legal issues are addressed by the government. Ethical issues are addressed by the society. You have to draw a line between these two. Ethical issues, society; legal issues, government. So all those issues in which there are proper government policies that are passed. The government has certain laws that if you violate this, you'll be penalized, you'll be imprisoned, you'll be fined, you'll be behind the bars. All those laws, whether they're consumer protection laws or labor laws or fiscal policy or monetary related laws, all the government policies, environment, all those laws in which the government is directly involved, we call those the legal issues, right? The distinction is clear? Okay. Now with the passage of time, the way things have evolved, now there are dozens of issues which can be labeled as ethical and legal at the same time also. Ethical issues, you're advertising directly towards children. It's not a legal issue. The government is okay with this. The government doesn't object to it. You can advertise chocolates as much as you want to. Not a legal issue, ethical issue. But there are so many issues nowadays in which the government has started playing an active role, and in those issues, legalities and ethics, they have started overlapping. They've started overlapping. Right? Countless examples. I'm sure you can come up with examples. By the way, can you quote an example of an issue which is ethical and legal at the same time? Can you come up with an example? Anyone? An issue which can be categorized as a legal and an ethical issue at the same time? You see, issues such as child labor, that is ethical and legal at the same time, right? Issues such as pollution, right? That is ethical and legal at the same time. The society has an objection to it. Pollution, child labor. The government has passed proper laws regarding this, right? So child labor, pollution, drugs, smoking in public places, so on and so forth. All these issues can be labeled as ethical and legal at the same time now. Because, you know, the society has reservations and the government also has passed proper laws regarding this. The proper laws regarding everything. Use of polythene bags, that is against the law in Pakistan also. If it's, you know, whether it is implemented or not, that's a separate issue. The laws regarding smoking in public places, child labor, environment, right? So they overlap. Okay. Then the second term that we've used, that is CSR. The one that we used in the previous topic also, corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility, CSR. CSR means that a business is answerable to all the stakeholders. A business is answerable to all the stakeholders in the society, not just the shareholders, not just the owners of the business. CSR means that a business is answerable to everyone in the society. They're answerable to the customer, they're answerable to the employees, they're answerable to the suppliers, everyone. Community, that is CSR. That's your corporate social responsibility, that a business organization is answerable to all the stakeholders, not just the owners of the business, not just the shareholders, because everyone is answerable to the owners. They have to make profit for them. But you're answerable to everyone. Whatever you do, try to safeguard the interests of the society. Whatever you do, try to protect the rights of various stakeholders. That is CSR. You must try to fulfill your CSR, your corporate social responsibility. And a business which tries to fulfill its CSR is called a social enterprise. You have to remember this term, social enterprise. A business that fulfills its CSR is called a social enterprise. Social enterprise, you know, because they are giving importance to the rights, interests of all the stakeholders, social enterprise, right? So, you know, there's so many business organizations. McDonald's claims that they are a social enterprise. Why? Because of course they are profit seeking, but McDonald's says that we are trying to safeguard the interests of the society also. We finance all these parks in Lahore for the public, for the masses. We are a social enterprise. We contribute towards charitable causes. We try to maintain, you know, good hygienic conditions. We use paper bags and not polythene bags. Paper bags that can be recycled. So they publicize themselves as a social enterprise. Same is the case with Orange. Orange Telecom, well-established company, telecom, computers, phones. So Orange Telecom says, we are a social enterprise too. Why? Because Orange, you know, they have created these transmitters, these poles that look like trees. Orange has spent a lot of money on R&D and they have developed poles or transmitters that look like trees, tree-shaped transmitters. They have created tree-shaped transmitters, tree-shaped poles. They look like trees. Why? Because they would blend in with the environment. You know, they're saying instead of the usual metallic transmitters, which were ruining the environment, we went out of the way and we have created transmitters that look like trees. And they would blend in with the environment because we are concerned about the landscape. We are an environment-friendly company. We are a social enterprise. Right? So all these companies, if somebody says, if, you know, if they say, if you buy a pack of Ariel and a certain amount will go to Shaukat Khanum, they're acting like a social enterprise. Right? So fulfilling your CSR is important. Being ethically responsible is important. Now the reason behind this. Just keep in mind that, I'm emphasizing that, yes, you have to fulfill your CSR. Yes, you have to act in an ethically responsible manner. But remember, this is an image building tactic. This would be an image building measure. Maybe they want to do something for the society or charity, but as a business organization, it's not a charitable organization. The purpose behind this, fulfilling CSR, acting in an ethically responsible manner, the purpose is your image is enhanced. These are image building tactics. Very important that you mention this. Never undermine the importance of profit, because, in this question, I'm often marking the papers, and sometimes I notice that students, they're getting carried away. They're describing this in such a way as if they are discussing a charitable organization. No, that's not the case. They are acting in an ethically and socially responsible manner because they want to enhance their image in the eyes of the stakeholders. When the image improves, the credibility improves, it will lead to higher sales. Eventually, it will lead to higher profits. Right? So these are image building tactics. All these companies, Orange claims that there has been an 18 to 20% increase in sales ever since they started using that, those T-shaped transmitters. These are image building tactics. If they're not hiring children, if they're not polluting the environment, if they're doing something for charity, image building tactics. For a business organization, I just gave you the statement. The ultimate measure, the ultimate gauge to measure the success of business is profit. So the ultimate destination is profit. Just make sure it is clearly highlighted there. It is reflected there in your answers. Profit. Right? Okay. Then the third category, the third term that we've used, that is triple bottom line philosophy. Companies like Shell, they're great advocates of this, triple bottom line. You see, triple bottom line, again, a similar concept. Triple bottom line says that the route to success, it goes through 3 layers, triple bottom line. The concept says that the key to success, the route to the ultimate destination of success, it passes through 3 layers. You have to give importance to 3 factors if you want to be successful in the long run. And what are those 3 factors? What are those 3 layers? Just remember SEE. The social factors, the environmental factors, and the last one, the economic factors. This is your triple bottom line. Social, environmental, economic. Social, environmental, economic. Right? So since we have just discussed ethics and we've just discussed CSR, it should not be difficult for you to understand what triple bottom line represents. That the success, the route to success is, the key to success is that you have to give importance to the social factors, the environmental factors, and until ultimately the economic factors. Exactly similar to what we discussed, that you have to be society friendly. Do not undermine the interests of the society. Do whatever you want to do. Like I said, you're in the manufacturing business, tertiary sector, whatever. Don't undermine the importance of this stakeholder, the society. I just quoted the example of a cafe, a restaurant. Sell whatever you want to, but don't sell substandard items. Take care of their health. If you're running a cement plant, for example, produce as much cement as you want to, maximize profit, but don't pollute the environment with the production of cement. As you know, there are issues regarding this dust control. Right? That is why Anita Roddick was so successful. Anita Roddick, the chief executive of Body Shop, she was the first one to float the idea that, my products are not tested on animals, and it clicked. Anita Roddick, the chief executive of Body Shop, she is regarded as a role model as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. So take care of what the society wants. Be environment friendly, very important. I just discussed this orange. Be environment friendly. Environment, this is important. This is a burning issue. You should be concerned about the ozone layer. You should be concerned about the greenery. You should be concerned about the environment in general. And lastly, finally, your ultimate goal is the economic factors, profit maximization, social, environmental, economic. So I just mentioned Shell, the oil company, the Dutch oil company, one of the largest, the second largest company in the world in oil, Shell. Shell openly claims that our philosophy is the triple bottom line philosophy. But just, to retain some originality and some creativity, instead of triple bottom line, they have used the term TPP philosophy, triple P philosophy. Shell says our philosophy is the triple P philosophy, which is influenced directly by the triple bottom line philosophy. Right? So PPP stands for, I think you can come up with an answer. Do you want to give it a try? PPP replaces the triple bottom line philosophy. So what do you think? Instead of S, which word should we use? S for social, P for anyone, you can give it a try. Instead of social, they use the term people. Shell says,
yeah, people, planet, and profit.
Sure, that's perfect. So you have a fairly accurate idea. Absolutely, that's absolutely correct. People being planet friendly and profit. That's correct. So as we were discussing, that Shell says this is the triple P philosophy, and like you correctly said, that in our product, Shell says our products are for the people of this world, and they are justified. Their products are used everywhere in the world. Not only in the shape of petrol, which is consumed, these motor vehicles. There are so many products which are derived from that oil, and it's being used in the industry also. So they claim that yes, we have made a difference to the lifestyle of the people of this world. Who can deny this? Their products are for the people of this world. Planet friendly, very important. Instead of environment, they have tried to, broaden the scope, and they say we are a planet friendly company. What actually they're referring to, if you have ever noticed, you go to a petrol station, Shell, and you will often come across something they have mentioned I've observed this at 3 or 4 different petrol stations, that, it is lead free. Shell claims their petrol is lead free, or the content of lead, that element, is minimal in their petrol. So lead is the content, lead is the element which supposedly has contributed towards that hole in the ozone layer. So Shell says the content of lead is minimal in our petrol. So we are more environment friendly as compared to other brands. So generally, other experts, they say that, the other brands like Total probably is better, but I mean, that's a separate debate. So Shell claims that their petrol, or the company, they are planet friendly. They're concerned about the landscape, they're concerned about the environment, they're concerned about the planet. And so we are adopting measures, concrete measures, to ensure that we don't do anything which damages the environment or the planet. Right? And lastly, profit. Shell is a major profit-seeking organization. They have a turnover of a few $1 billion a year. So yes, they are absolutely a profit-seeking organization. They try to maximize profit, right? Okay, and do not undermine the importance of profit. I've already mentioned. Now, quickly, I'm going to quote 2 examples from 2 different past papers, just to give you an idea, about the kind of question you can expect. And, in ethics, in ethical issues, usually the question that you come across either in paper 2 or in paper 3, it revolves around a particular business or a business organization. There'll be a situation, there'll be a case study. For example, there was Star Pharmaceuticals, discussed the importance of ethics for a pharmaceutical company, or discussed the importance of ethics for Ganmore cars, for a car manufacturing company. I've just recalled 2. And then there's another one regarding an airline or aircraft manufacturer. You see, you should know, I keep mentioning language skills. You should know how to mold your answer. If it's a pharmaceutical company, you will discuss everything that we just did. You will reproduce this, but you will have to refer to the context. You will have to refer to the passage to a pharmaceutical company and come up with valid points that represent a pharmaceutical industry. That how does the pharmaceutical industry, how can they fulfill their CSR? What specific steps should they take to promote their image, promote themselves as a you know, an ethically responsible organization? Specific steps, you know, child labor is something that is applicable everywhere. You know, discuss that, but be a little more specific. Examiners, they keep telling us the key to success, refer to the context. Clearly, they've mentioned this in the last webinar. You give your student 4 out of 10 for an excellent answer. Remember this, quote unquote. The examiner, the chief examiner, he says, give your student 4 out of 10 for an excellent answer if he or she has not referred to the passage. And for the same answer, if you establish a link with the passage, 8 or 9 out of 10. This is how important it is, referring to the context. So in the pharmaceutical industry, you know, you can mention that if they are selling life-saving drugs, life-saving medicines, they should not be overpriced. That is relevant. If their medicines, if they have something which is harmful, which is hazardous, make sure you warn the customers, warn the patients. If it has something which is not acceptable, you know, on religious grounds or socially, warn the customers. If, you know, obviously it involves chemicals, they should be disposed of properly. That is ethics. Make sure your employees, they're provided with gloves and masks and everything, the safety gear, because they, you know, they will have to face these issues which relate to the production of medicines because they're exposed to chemicals. Come up with answers which are relevant. Establish a link. Car manufacturing. The car manufacturer, he must ensure, again, child labor, etc., everywhere, but he must make sure that his cars, all his cars, they have seat belts or they have airbags for the safety of the commuters. This is their ethical responsibility. Or their fumes, they're less harmful to the environment. Their engines or the technology that they're using, it is environment friendly. Right? More the answer. And the last example for today, you know, there was this, I just mentioned Cameron jet engines, paper 3 case study. Interesting question. And this will also help you understand, you know, that the kind of questions we are coming across these days, many of these are like English essay type questions. So the question was, just let me give you the background first. This is the last point to be discussed today. That, you know, Cameron jet engines, they were manufacturing jet engines, and now they want to enter the helicopter market. Great opportunity for them to expand the business, helicopter market, and there's a contract. They want to win that contract. But the problem is, you know, they came up with their quotation, and, you know, on the basis of that quotation, the people there, they simply turned down the application. They say, no, you don't deserve this contract. The customer service or the quality or the price, not up to the mark. Fair and square, you're not winning this contract, you know, in that helicopter market. But one of the government officials in that country who was at the helm of affairs, he said that if you can arrange some quote unquote facilitating payments, it is mentioned in the case study paper 3, if you can arrange some facilitating payments and transfer the amount to my personal account, maybe I can pull some strings and I can help you get the contract. Facilitating payments is just a softer way of saying bribery, right? This is the background. The question is, recommend to the directors of Cameron jet engines whether they should proceed further, whether they should win the contract by arranging the facilitating payments, or they should let it go. Now, this question is based on ethics and CSR and triple bottom. You getting this? The application. The knowledge and application, both are important, and case study application is very, very important. Now you have to apply that knowledge. You see, this is like a proper essay type question because it was evaluation based. To what extent it said. To what extent means evaluate. So basically what you have to do is, you have to discuss ethics, CSR, which is comparatively simpler. honesty is the best policy and you have to come up with points. We'll discuss this question in detail. We'll attempt this case study when we're doing the password. So that part is easier. Honesty is the best policy. They shouldn't do this on principles. This is wrong. If the information is leaked, it is bad for their image. It is hazardous also because they are dealing in parts which are used in helicopters, dangerous. The share prices might drop if it is so on and so forth. So ethically, socially, obviously, they should, let it go. They're not winning the contract on merit, then forget about this contract. But since it's an evaluation-based question, you have to highlight the other side also. And what is the other side? Support bribery. You have to be the devil's advocate and you have to come up with a few points that support facilitating payments. Are you getting my point? And in the end, you will give your verdict that, they should not, accept the offer or whatever. You have to give your verdict in the end. Recommend is the question, the first word. So now in this question, the first part is easier, discuss ethics, CSR and all that. But the second part, you have to come up with points and you have to use your language skills and you have to support the idea of arranging those facilitating payments. Like I said, being the devil's advocate, you have to do that. For instance, you have to say that after all, how can you justify this? It's a profit seek, it's a business organization. So maybe, for a business organization, the ultimate goal is profit. So maybe they should overlook the ethical aspect and focus more on expansion and growth and profit because it's business organization. You have to come up with points to support that. Unfortunately, this is how it is. Or maybe you can think of something like, that maybe this is the name of the game. Maybe this is how contracts are won in the helicopter industry. The person who has made them the offer pertaining to this facilitating payments, he must have made the same offer to other companies, the competitors also. So if they don't win the contract by raising the facilitating payments, it's unfair competition. The other company would win it in a similar fashion. So you have to think and come up with points, right? Maybe you can write that it's okay if they use this strategy to win the contract. Afterwards, they can start behaving properly and they can focus on their quality standards and fulfill all the CSR and ethical values and, that they want to. But first of all, they have to be there to win the game. They have to participate. They have to be there. So the point that I'm trying to make, and interestingly enough, in the same case study, there were two questions on ethics. One was this, facilitating payments. And the other question was, you know what window dressing is? Window dressing? When you change the figures, overstate the figures, understate the figures deliberately to deceive the stakeholders or to enhance the image or to for tax evasion. So there was another question in the same case study regarding, it's a good case study, we will definitely discuss this. Regarding